You are watching the last sunset of an entire age. This is not a battle of flesh and bone. It is the death cry of a god made of steel and wire. The silver arrows of mankind, outrunning sound itself. When the titans of concrete and steel finally fall silent, civilization was not extinguished. It was merely... Our story begins here. 93 million miles away, a giant stirs in its sleep. It unleashes a fiery breath, a dragon of plasma, wearing a crown of 1 billion nuclear bombs. An arrow of energy aimed at the heart of a world that does not know it is at war. On the ground, the watchmen of humanity see it coming, a cosmic predator, and its hunting ground is home. Our world has an ancient guardian, a shield woven from the iron heart of a planet. But today, the enemy is too strong. The shield screams a silent, incandescent prayer. And so the first fragments of the storm break through, disguised as a rain of impossible beauty. The sky begins to bleed, a prophecy written in light, for a world that has forgotten how to read the signs. The eyes and ears of civilization, orbiting in the heavens, begin to close, one by one. The performance goes global, its beauty lulling a planet into a false and fatal sense of security. From the edge of the world, they have the best seats to the end of it, a terrible and beautiful front row. Below, humanity revels in the light show, unaware that they are cheering their own eulogy. We stop hearing the whispers of the universe. Instead, we are about to hear the screams of our own world. The invisible poison has entered the bloodstream. Now it seeks out the veins of the modern world. The arteries of the titans begin to boil, choking on a power they were never meant to contain. The high priests of the grid realize this is not a storm, this is an invasion. The first thread in the great web of the modern world is cut. A small silence, heralding a great one. Even the gentle giants of the plains can feel the fever. The system begins to convulse. The collective mind of humanity begins to seize. The steel whales that carry our world on their backs are struck blind, left to drift in the endless blue. The system tries to save itself, a final desperate act of self-preservation before the darkness. The first visible tremors. The great titan, the global network, begins to shiver. The voices of governments, of corporations, of media. The shadow begins its conquest, not with a roar, but by swallowing the lights, one by one. The final moment of peace. The heart of the titan still beats, oblivious to the poison already in its veins. The assault begins in earnest, a targeted strike against the steel hearts of the grid. The first titan has fallen, a wound that will not heal for a generation. The sickness spreads through the veins. This is not a slow decline. It is a sudden, catastrophic stroke. The East Coast goes silent. In the blink of an eye, 100 million people are sent back to the Stone Age. The apple rots from the core. The city that never sleeps is put into a coma from which it may never wake. For those in the air, the Earth simply vanishes, leaving only a black and terrifying void below. The entire global economy, a fantasy of numbers that shaped the real world, evaporates into nothing. The old continent is not spared. 1,000 years of civilization, erased by an enemy 93 million miles away. The first thread in the great web of the modern world is cut. A small silence, heralding a great one. The last fortress of life. Electricity was the blood. Water was the life. When the blood stops pumping, life itself runs dry. The kingdom of the sleepless is finally forced to close its eyes and dream a long, dark dream. Artificial intelligence, the child of logic, becomes a useless brick when its food supply is cut off. A great metal graveyard, a monument to our own brilliant and fragile dependence. The war is over. The grid is dead. Earth has been reset to its factory settings. And so, with no one to stop it, the fire of chaos begins to burn in the darkness. When the rules of the old world die, the oldest rule of all comes roaring back: survival. The great exodus begins, not to find new land, but to escape the concrete cages they built for themselves. The black blood of the industrial world, once priceless, is now worthless. The great iron birds will fly no more. The world, once small, is suddenly vast and disconnected again. The atomic beasts we created must be lulled back to sleep, lest they wake and finish the job. Even time itself, measured so perfectly, begins to unravel. The automated fields that fed billions have their roots severed. The harvest is over. The great temples of knowledge, our libraries, are now sealed tombs. The power of nature is still there. We have simply lost the key to unlock it. The last of the mechanical messengers fall from the sky. In the global silence, a single voice, a single signal, becomes the most valuable treasure on Earth. When the artificial lights die, the true light of the universe is allowed to shine. And so man returns to the first fire, the ancient symbol of hope and a new beginning. Welcome to the Silent Age, a world cleansed by darkness. The abundance of the old world becomes the sickness of the new. When the satellites fall silent, paper and ink once again become the most trusted guides. High technology becomes junk. Old technology becomes a lifeline. The simplest act of survival: getting water. The screens went dark, so humanity learned to look at each other again. The fire became the only network that mattered. Oop, oop. The playgrounds of the rich become the farmlands of the survivors. The planet does not wait for us. It begins to heal, patiently erasing the scars of a civilization that flew too high. The wild kingdom begins to explore the ruins of the human one. The knowledge of the ancestors, once dismissed as folklore, is now studied as sacred text. We learn to build time again with gears and springs, not with ports and code. The ancient highways of water become the new arteries of trade. When you can no longer post, you begin to write history again. The temples of commerce become the tombs of a forgotten age. The power of fire and steel, the foundation of all civilization, is rediscovered. The direct transfer of knowledge from mind to mind becomes the only form of education left. Humanity learns to create power from its own muscle, a hard lesson in the true cost of energy. Currency dies, value is reborn. A potato is worth more than a pound of gold. The culture of replace is dead. The culture of repair is all that remains. We lost the global positioning system, only to rediscover the original one, written in the stars above. Even at the end of the world, art endures. The need for beauty is as essential as the need for bread. Ingenuity, humanity's greatest resource, shines brightest in the darkest of times. The creation of food becomes an intimate, laborious process, not a transaction. When the factories go quiet, the rivers learn to breathe again. With no screens to distract us, we begin to notice the spectacle that happens every single day. Nature's own original engineers get back to work. Every surviving piece of knowledge is now a holy relic. The internet of light and silence. The need to connect is a force that cannot be extinguished. The ancient cycles of the planet continue, indifferent to the rise and fall of a single clever species. The old world becomes a myth, a bedtime story of metal birds and towers of light. But the fire of creation never truly dies. It simply learns to burn in a smaller, more humble hearth. Not from the atom, not from the stone. Power is born from partnership with nature, not from its conquest. The first heartbeat of a new world. The first light, not to conquer the darkness, but to find a path through it. The loop of technological rebirth begins. From energy comes a tool. From the tool comes more energy. The web begins to be rewoven, not with fiber optics, but with radio waves and faith. Humanity did not rebuild the one great titan. Instead, they built 1,000 resilient little stars on the ground. The knowledge of the old world is not lost. It is recovered, respected, and used with greater wisdom. We built a giant to reach for the stars, and the stars struck it down. Perhaps the lesson was to become stars ourselves. The storm taught the world humility.